So let's start with the introductory, the footbridge. The introduction part that here you can see the footbridge or the person on the foot connect is a scaffold intended for the walkers and now again the cyclist, the creature movement and the stallion riders as opposed to the vehicular activity. And the footbridges supplement the scene and can be utilized beautifully to outwardly connect the two particular zones or to flag and exchange. So the basically that we can say that for the walkers as well as we can use for the walkers and on the other side for the cyclist and the other creature movements for that we can use that foot bridges and can be utilized beautifully to the outward connects like as I give you the example of the footbridge at your city in which on the other side we have the mall and other side we have the outlet outwards of some colonies that basically is connected with each other with the help of the footbridge. So in the numerous created nations, the footbridges are both useful and can be lovely masterpieces and figure. So for poor provincial groups in the creating scenes, a footbridge might be the group just access to the medicinal centers, schools and markets, which would some way or another be inaccessible when the waterways are too high to cross. So this is the one of the reason that you provide the footbridge there. The waterways where that will be the too high and very difficult to close there. So straightforward suspension connect the outlines have been created to be reasonable and effectively constructible in such rustic zones, utilizing and just neighborhood materials and work. So you can took so many you can took the lots of work with the help of these footbridges then for the transportation purposes as well as and basically you can say that to transport the material as well and so these footbridges basically connect the people for so many reasons we have and encased footbridges between the two structures is in some cases known as a skyway. So the skyway you can also have the examples of the skyway like in the Trillium Mall we have in between the two wings that you can see the connection in between the two wings like in your city the Trillium Mall at Amritsar and where you can observe that we have the two wings there and that two wings which is basically is connected with the skyway and the scaffold accommodating the two people on the foot and cyclist are regularly adopted as the green extension and frame a vital piece of the economical transport development towards the more reasonable urban areas. So the footbridges are frequently arranged to enable the people on foot to cross water or the railroads in territories where there are no adjacent streets to require a street connect. So if there is not any possibility to connect the street in between the two areas, so there must be the footbridge that will work good as compared to the streets. So they are likewise situated crosswise over the street to give the walkers a chance to cross securely without backing of the activity. And the last is a kind of way in the passerby detachment structure in the cases of which are especially found the close school to help the contract kids running before moving autos. So you can took the so many the lots of help with this footbridges on the skyways we have. So especially now we are talking about the footbridge here. So this is the figure that you can see for the footbridge. So how we make that bridge with the help of the trusses as well. So name of the members of the 6-panel Pratt truss. Here we have like here you can see the all the element of this truss and this span. So here you can see this one is the stringer, so which is provided along the length of the bridge. Then we have the stringer bracing. Here these bracings in between the like this in this shape in between the two. So these two longitudinal members that you can see along the length of the bridge. These are the stringer, and which are basically used to support the. This one is the cross girder we have. So these are the main. Then we have the counters there. Then we have the bottom lateral bracing at the bottom. Then the intermediate posts are there in between that. So these are all the intermediate posts that you can see here. Then we have the top lateral bracing there, the sway bracing as well, the sway struts, so top cord. So all these are the member of the truss we have. So that will take all kind of forces that will pass through these members. So these kind of the truss, basically these kind of the trusses that we can use for the footbridge construction. So this one is that you can see the simply spotted span. We have the continuous or simply spotted the span type, the span length that is in between 10, 15, 20 and 25 meter here. The handrail height, this one is a handrail height. Simply we have this simply spotted span, then we provided there the handrail. This is the upper, this is the vertical members we have with the size of 200 and 200 into 5 mm. Then we have this upper cord with this size, and the plate thickness that is 6 mm below that. And this is the lower cord here that you can see here. This is the pipe with this size. We have 300 into 300 into 10 mm thickness with that. And the handrail height, this is the handrail which is provided in the size of 1.05 meter, 1.2, 1.35, 1.6, 1.7 meter. Then the bridge width we have 2.5 meter. So this is the width that is 2.5, and the total span we have that is 7 meter. This is the this span. So this kind of the bridges that you can also see across the road. And along the both the side of the bridge that you can also see there the stairs to climb above the bridge. Then this one is the front view of the footbridge that you can see here with the span of this one in between the 21 meter span we have where this panel that will be started from both the side, that is 5 meter from the face of the sport, this distance, and the 2 meter width of the sports we have. So this is the side view of the footbridge. So this kind of the curved steel tubes above that. So these are the curved steel tubes when you will see from this side. So the height of this that is near about 5.9 meter, and the above the curved height we have near about 1.2 meter there. And this is the horizontal bracing that you can see in between these two, the curved steel tubes. So these are the curved steel tubes that you can see this portion. Okay, the side view of the footbridge. Then we have the typical cross section of the footbridge. So this one is the curved steel tube. So this is the cross section that you can see from the center. Like these are the steel pipes we have, and the curved steel tubes. So these are the steel pipes which are used to connected these curved steel tubes, and this is the deck slab where where you can move through this surface with the help of this surface. So that is known as a deck there. Then we have the plan view of the footbridge. So in the plan view of the footbridge that you can see here, the parapet screw here we have. Then these are the stairs along both the sides. So this is the stairs This is the stair that you can see along on this side and as well as on this side. On the other side, we have the opposite side, so that the people can easily lift up through this stairs and use this footbridge. You have that. So these are the horizontal brace member there. This is a composite deck. They are in between that these two portion, these two stairs, which is connected between this member we have. This is a composite deck. The side of the deck, side stairs we have. Then this is a cross section of the composite deck. So this deck cross section we have, in which we have 3 centimeter unslippery granite above that. Then we have the 5 centimeter alum there. Then steel is also there, sheet iron and the concrete beam is also provided there. So this is the cross section of this deck slab that you can see here. So these are all the views of the footbridge that you can see here. The plan, then the side view of the footbridge, then the typical cross section, the cross section of the composite deck, and the plan view of the footbridge. So again, we have some element that you can see here. This is the truss element we have. This is the beam element below that. And this is a solid element and the shell element there. That all you can see here. Okay, so with the help of this figure that you will get some idea about the foot bridges. So which kind of the shapes of the foot bridges that we can provide, as well what are the different elements of the foot bridge we have, then which kind of the views and the cross-sectional views of the foot bridges we have that you can observe here. Okay, so these are the element of the foot bridges, and so the sort of the foot bridges so which are not likewise kind of the street connect include, so simple suspension connect that we can provide there. Then we have the clapper connect, moon connect, and the stepstone extension there. So these are the sort of the foot bridges that we can use all these kind of the connects. Then the kind of the zigzag connect as well as there. Then we have the kind of the private scale foot bridges include the plank, boardwalk, joisted, simple truss that I shown you in the previous slide. So with the help of all these, the private scale foot bridges that we can include there. So the private scale foot bridges all the private scale foot bridges all traverse a short separation and can be utilized for an expensive scope of uses. And entangled building is not required, and the foot bridges are worked with promptly accessible materials and fundamental tools. The distinctive sorts of the plan footbridge included the timber footbridges we have, then we have the steel footbridges and the concrete footbridges. So these are these private scale footbridges that we can basically use for the short suspension, and that basically expensive scope of uses with the when we are utilizing these kind of the private scale footbridges there. So the distinctive sort of plan footbridges we have, this one is the timber footbridge, then the steel footbridge, and the concrete footbridges that we can use in the favorable circumstances there. So gives protected and economical intersection, and gives specialized help to the nearby government and groups required straightforward, effortlessly connected rules on the rules on the determination and the development of the compelling water intersection as well. And a much rustic travel happens on nearby ways, tracks, and town streets. So this gives basic access to the water, and kindling cultivate plots and the group streets organized, and the groups are potentially nearby government are by and large in charge of this foundation. So these kind of the footbridges that we can use, and which is also beneficial for the government projects as well, that you can see here. And the disadvantages we have, one of the primary issues that that groups and additionally nearby government confront when the managing building footbridges is in giving the powerful water intersection, and especially in the stormy season, the absence of the satisfactory intersections can contract access to the administration or temporary routes of the numerous kilometers going for the block, and particularly by ladies and kids on a hazards intersection. So when there will be the weather conditions, sometimes that is basically effect of these kind of the bridges, and then so which is a, you can say that that will not give some advantage as compared to the other bridges. So that was the content which we discussed here. Then we have the design detail about that. And these are the design steps for the footbridge, that with the help of these design steps that we can design this footbridge. So the basic information required there, here the type of the girders we have. So which kind of the girders we have? The lattice S type. So then we have the span of the girder, that is 6 meters center of the bearing. That so the cross girder spacing is the 2 meter. Then the walking width is 2.5 meter, like which I have shown you in the previous slide. Then we have the pedestrian load, that is near about 4,000 Newton per meter square. So this is the dead load. We have in the flooring to be made of the timber planks supported on the cross girder. So this kind of the in here you can also use the roof truss bridges for to support the and to support the to support this pedestrian load there. So let's see how to design with the help of these design steps. This is the step number 1 we have, in which the design of the floor planks. How to design the floor plank. So the dead load of the plank, the 60 mm thick, that is, if it is 60 mm thick, then the 8,000 Newton per meter cube we need to consider here the dead load, and therefore the 60 by 1,000 into 8,000, the 480 Newton per meter square, that will be the dead load of will be there as per the in meter. When we will consider this weight. Then we have the live load, like this one is the pedestrian load that is given to you, like we see in the previous slide, that is 4,000 Newton per meter square, that is available, and the total load that will be dead load and the live load. So that you can consider there. So that was the first slide for the design steps, in which we have the type of girder we have, then what is the span, the span length we have, then the cross girder spacing is there, the walking width is there, and the pedestrian load, and the flooring to be made of the timber planks supported on the cross girder. Okay, so again I want to show you the figure that, so this is, so this kind of the footbridge, like the rat truss we have, and in which you can see these are the stringers, and these are basically supported. These are the cross girder we have. These are the cross girder, and this span, the center bearing, that you can say that is a 16 meter, the center bearing, and these are the cross girder with the distance of 2.5 meter. the center to center, and here we, and this is the width of the span, and so like this we have all this data about all the information about the footbridge we have that is required. Then the design steps, step one, as we discussed, first we need to consider here the dead load of the plank, that is a 60 mm thick dead load. As per this, an 8,000 Newton per meter cube, and in meters we have 480 Newton per meter square. That will be 480 Newton per meter square on the meter square area of that, and the live load that was available, and both the dead load and live load should be added. Okay, then again, after that, the which kind of check we need to apply. So when we are designing the plank there, so the check for the flexural stress in which the 1 meter wide strip of the plank. So we will consider any 1 meter area above the plank there, and we have to check the different stresses that will act above that. So first, the check we will apply, that will be the check for the flexural stress, in which the maximum bending moment. So flexural stress is, it means there will be the bending in between the plank. So the bending moment that will be that is simply spotted we have. So bending moment that will be WL square by 8. W is the total load we have, and L is the total span. That is, and divided by 8. So equate the maximum bending moment with the moment of resistance. So this is the maximum bending moment, and maximum bending, and this is the moment of resistance, that is 1/6 into the factored load into B into D square. So here you can get the value of the D when you will equate with this the factored bending moment. They calculate the stress F from there. So the D, the depth of that plank that is available, that is 60 mm, the near about the 60 mm we have. So after equating this, we can calculate here the the 8 span we have there. Okay, yes, we can calculate here the stress, that is F in Newton per mm square, and the permissible bending stress in the plank that is equal to 10 Newton per mm square, and therefore the calculated stress that should be less than this permissible stress in the plank, so that our design that will be remain safe. So when we are check against the flexure stress, so what we need to calculate here, the first we need to calculate here the bending moment. So bending moment, first we have to consider the 1 meter wide stirrup for that. So B that will be here, that will be 1 meter. This B, the B here we need to consider, that will be 1 meter, 1/6 into F. F is the stress, F in Newton per mm square, B into D square, which is equal to the maximum bending. So here we are equating the maximum bending moment with the moment of resistance to calculate the stress. And the permissible bending stress in the plank, that is as per the standard, that is a 10 Newton per mm square. So whatever we calculated this stress, that should be less than this permissible stress in the plank. Is that clear to all? And if this check fail, then increase the depth, the D of the plank. Okay, then we have to increase this depth. If this check, that will be fail. Okay, so this is the check for the flexure stress against the bending of the plank. Then we have the check for the shear stress. In the case of the shear stress, we know that we have, again, we need the total load there, and the shear force that will be WL by 2. And the shear stress, the maximum shear force we have into B into D. and the mean shear stress, that is 1.5 into the shear stress, that is the partial safety factor applying with that, and the permissible shear stress here we have, that is 0.8 Newton per mm square, and the mean shear stress that should be less than this permissible shear stress on the plank. So if this check fail, then increase the D of the plank. So ultimately we are designing the we are basically designing the plank here. Okay, and we want to check that the depth of the plank which we are providing there, is it safe against the bending as well as the shear. Okay, so that's why we are applying the check. First we have to apply the check against the, because this is the step number 1, the design of flooring oblique the plank. So that we are first we consider this thickness there, then as per the thickness the live load was given to you, then we get the total load, and then we applied there the both the check for the flexure stress and check for the shear stress. And the next one here we have the check for the deflection. So the deflection along the, because the main plank area that will take the load. Okay, so that should be safe enough. So in case to calculate the deflection here, so what we have to do first, we need to calculate here the moment of inertia of the 1 meter wide strip. So that is equal to BD cube by 12. So B is the width we have, 1 meter wide strip, and D is the depth that which we are considering. On the first, that is 60 mm, and divided by 12. So maximum deflection, that should be D. This maximum deflection WT raised to power 4 divided by 384 EI, the modulus of velocity into the inertia. So in the permissible deflection, that is span by 325, that you all know that. So this one is the permissible deflection, and whatever the maximum deflection we have that we calculated there, so that should be less than this permissible deflection. If this check fail, then increase the depth D of the plank. So ultimately we have to increase the depth of the plank if we are observing like that our design is going to be fail against these 3 factors, like the check for the flexure stress, check for the shear stress, and check for the deflection. So then after designing the flooring of the plank, now the next step is need to design here, that one is the design of the cross beam. So the cross beam, you all know that I have shown to you in the previous slide, that in this figure that you can see here, this cross beam. So these are the cross beam we have. This one, that is across the span. So that is basically is known as a cross beam, which we basically we are provided along the width of the span. So now we have to design this one, and we need to learn how to design the cross beam with this design steps. So the width of the cross beam that you can see here, the clear width of the footway, that is 2.50 meter, that is available to you. Okay, and the center to center distance between the girders we have. So these 2 girder that will be at the end of the cross beam. So where that cross beam that will be spotted. So we are assuming that girders that cross beam which is spotted above the 150 mm bearing above that girder. So from both the side, so this is 2.5 meter in between this width we have, and along both the side that is spotted on these 2 girder, that is 0.15 and 0.15 along both the sides. So total we will get here 2.80 meter, and load on the one cross beam that will be equal to 2 into 2.5 into dead load plus live load. So self weight of the cross beam that is a 300 Newton, which we can assume as per the standard. And then the total load, that is the load of the cross beam plus self weight of the cross beam. So after, when you will add this both, the assume the cross beam and the load on the cross beam, self weight of the cross beam and the load on the cross beam, then the total load that you will get here. Okay, so this is how to calculate the load for the cross beam, that is basically used for the designing purpose of the cross beam. Then we have to check for the flexure again. So after deciding the load, after deciding the total load for the cross beam, we have to check against again this cross beam, that we need to check against the bending there. So the maximum bending moment, that will be the total load into the center to center distance between the girder divided by 8, and the total load that is, and total load we have into 2.8 divided by 8, and this one is a permissible bending stress. So that is the standard as per this, the 165 Newton per mm square that we need to consider there. So therefore the calculated maximum bending stress, that should be less than this permissible bending stress, so that our cross beam design, that will remain safe. Okay, so against this, so on the what we are doing here in these steps, on the one side we are some data which is available to us and some which we are assuming there, and then we are calculating all the load, so that we can apply the check against all these forces, the bending shear and the flexure shear, as well as for the deflection. And on the other side we have some we can say that we have some this value which is you can say that the permissible values here, and we have to basically we have to compare with these permissible values and the actual values that which we are getting, and that should be less than this permissible value, so that we can provide the safe design to our structure. Okay, so we all know that the actual value, that should be less than the permissible values we have. Okay, getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And then we have the section modulus required there. So the maximum bending moment into the 10 raised to power 3. So how you will get here and divided by this permissible stress we have. So against that, you will get here the section modulus required, and check the section. So against this section modulus, okay. So now I think you remember that when we designed for the tension member and the compression member and for the flexural member in a DSS 1, the design of steel structure 1. So what we do there, how to select the different kind of the rolled steel section. Either we calculated the area for you can say that the required area for that section, and on the other side we calculate there the section modulus required. Okay, and then against that we select that section from the steel table. Okay, and from the steel table we have, and the section modulus or the required area, that should be more than the required one as per the design. Okay, so that we can go for the safer side, and we can go for the safer design. So same like that here, after calculating here the section modulus required against the bending moment and with the help of the permissible bending stress. So here we need to select the rolled steel section here with the help of the steel table. So ISLC, the Indian Standard Light channel section, that we can selecting here for the cross beam. Okay, and with the section modulus greater than the calculated above. And so whatever this section modulus that you will get here, this one, and this section modulus that we will select from that, so the value of that section modulus that should be greater than this calculated one. Okay, and provide that the section, for example, ISLC 125 has 57100 cube of the section modulus that we are going to select this one. Okay, so this is how to select this section for the cross girders. Okay, so till now we learned the design steps about the design of the flooring oblique the planks we have. Then we design the cross beam. Okay, so you all know that where we provide the plank, that will be provided above this cross beam there. This plank that we will provide against this, that will be supported by this cross beam, and this cross beam that is supported by this this main girder we have below that, the stringer that you can say that. Okay, so in this case, this cross beam that is supported by the end, both the end with the help of the main girder. So now we have to design this main girder. Okay, first we decided the flooring and the plank, then we decided the cross girder, and now we are going to decide here the main girder for the design of the footbridge. So the design of the main girder, in which again we need to consider here the dead load transmitted from the cross beam, then the total load of the cross beam minus 2 the clear walking width into the live load divided by 2 divided by the distance between the cross girder. So this is how to decide the dead load transmitted from the cross beam. So basically the main girder, as I told you, the main girder that will take the load from the cross girder. Okay, so the total load of the cross beam, in which we need to subtract here the clear walking width in between that, then we will subtract there the live load as well as, and divided by 2 into the distance between the cross girders. Okay, and the total load on one truss, that is equal to the dead load as calculated above plus the weight of the one truss. Okay, so weight of the one truss we are assuming here 400 Newton per meter, and the total load on the one truss, that is the dead load as calculated above, that we calculated above here. Okay, and the live load on the one truss, that is the live load into the clear walking width divided by 2. So the live load that is available 4000 Newton per meter square into the clear walking width that we have 2.5 and divided by 2. This is the live load that will be on the one truss. So these are all the steps that we need to consider for the design of the main girder, and where we provide the main girder, with the main girder that will be provided at both the end of the cross girder. So that's why we are considering here the total load that will be transmitted from the cross beam. Okay, the total load on the cross beam that we calculated in the previous step minus 2 the clear walking width into the live load divided by 2 into the distance between the cross girder. Then the weight of the one truss we need to assume that also will be taken by the main girder, that we are assuming here as per the standard 400 Newton per meter. The total load on the one truss, the total dead load that we calculated, plus the weight of the one truss which we assumed that, and the live load on the one truss, that is the live load into the clear walking width divided by 2. So let's see the next step for the design of the main girder. Then we have the check for the self weight of the truss, that is 400 Newton per meter, assumed by the Hudson formula that can be used there. So the check for the self weight of the truss, that we also add into the load there. So the member in which that we will consider there like this. So the height of the ILD in that member we have, and A into L minus A divided by L into H in between that, in which the total load on the one truss, that is equal to the live load on the one truss and plus the total dead load on the one truss. So this is the equation that we have to use for the to calculate the height. And then we have this one is the maximum tension in the member L3 L4, that you can calculate the area of the ILD into the load intensity and allowing a stress of 150 Newton per mm square, the net area required for this member. So the area is equal to the maximum tension in the member divided by the allowable stress. So this is the allowable stress we have, that is 150 Newton per mm square, and the maximum tension in the member, that is area of this into the load intensity. And weight of two trusses including the bracing there, that is 0.785 into the area Newton per meter, and weight of one truss with bracing, the weight of the two truss divided by 2. So this is how to calculate the weight of the two trusses, and weight of one truss is the weight of two truss divided by 2, that you will get of the weight of the one truss. So now the weight of the one truss is assumed here 400 Newton per meter. That should be less than the weight of the truss with bracing calculated above, so that our design that will be remain safe there. Then we have the analysis of the truss, the step number 4. So after these three designs, after the design of the three elements we have, like the flooring oblique plank, then the cross girder and the main girder, then we need to analyze the truss there. The dead load on the truss, that is equal to the calculated above. Live load on the truss, that is also the calculated above, that we calculated in the previous step. So forces in the member of the truss, the top chord member all are in compression, same member in the member in the top chord, the maximum compression in which the dead load plus live load into the area of the influence line diagram similarly calculate for all top chord compression members there. This one is for the top chord members in which all are in the compression. Then the bottom chord member, that all are in the tension. So the force in the tension is equal to the force in compression in another member, but member is in tension. Okay. So for example, the compression in member, that is the U1 and UT, is equal to tension in member L2 and L3 there. So this one is the bottom chord member in which, and the vertical members, that U1 and L1 both, the area of that member plus ILD, that will be is equal to the ILD there, and the dead load force in the member is equal to the dead load on the truss into the area of ILD minus the area of ILD there. The live load compression, in which the live load on the truss into the area of the ILD plus live load tension is equal to the live load on the truss into the area of the influence line diagram. So when you will go for the design, that you will get idea about all this equation here. Then the extreme value. So basically, after the design of the three element, we need to design for the truss as well, because that will also take the whole load there, and the member will that will be basically is connected with that span, and that will take the compression as well as the tension along the member of the truss. So extreme value, the dead load force in member plus the live load compression, And the dead load force in member minus the live load tension. Similarly, it is done for all the vertical members there, and for the diagonal members. And the force in the member, that is force in U1 and L1, the cosecant theta there, and not the calculate both for the compression and tension forces as occur in the vertical force calculations. So these two forces that we need to calculate there to calculate the vertical force calculations for both. So that was in the design of the top chord member there, then in which the maximum force in the top chord member, the length of that top chord panel, that is the 2 meter we have, suppose that, and from the steel table, let us try the two angle section there, the 16 to 16 to 8, and the area we have, and the radius that is 18 mm. This is basically the radius of gyration there, and against that we can calculate here the slenderness ratio against the effective length divided by the radius of gyration, and the safe compressive stress that you can calculate with the help of the table. And so safe compressive stress that is 85 Newton per mm square. The safe load that will be 85 into the area we have. So this is a design that we are doing with the working stress method here. Okay, so that was the last step